It's great to have you here. Here with Nan Linky. She's a very well-known psychotherapist and astrologer and practiced for almost 54 years. And I want to find out, how did you get into astrology, first of all?
Well, it was an accident. I always loved the planets, and I had a mobile over my bed when I was a little girl so that I could look at them. And then I was also in Washington, D.C. I was in space race and did all kinds of things there. But the more interesting thing was that I was actually in Washington, D.C. because I was trying to be a diplomat in the Middle East area. And guess what?
Middle East?
Yeah. And guess what? Women didn't get to be in diplomats then.
No.
So what I did is I said, well, hell, I'm just going to go back to Texas and go back to school.
Right.
Another thing. And so I was finding in a bookstore a book, Linda Goodman's Sun Signs. It was the first astrological book anybody ever saw. I took it home to my friend that I was living with until I moved to Houston. And I said, do you think this is true? And she says, I don't know. I said, well, the only way we're going to know is we got to find a real astrologer, and I'm going to get the yellow pages and find one. So we looked in the yellow pages, we found this woman, we went, and I made my friend go first because I said, I'm cheapskate. If she's a liar, I don't want to pay her. And my friend came out and was just like, oh my God, she's right. So
it's a real deal.
Real deal. So I went in there, and it was really amazing to me because I'd had several years of different kinds of psychiatry, psychotherapy, all that kind of stuff because I tried to kill myself when I was 22. Failed, obviously.
Good.
And so, yeah, good for me, and so when we listened to, and talked about what she had told me, I said, she told me more about myself that's correct than all those therapists did. I need to learn about this. So I got a class from her, and I studied it, and then I said to myself, okay, I think it's interesting. But at that time, I had a job at the biggest law firm in Houston.
Right.
And so that was really good for me because I wanted to learn it, and we didn't have computers. We didn't have anything.
It's a different world.
In the 60s.
Yeah.
So there were several young astrologers with me, and we would, it was the hippy-dippy world in the late 60s and the 70s, age of Aquarius.
Yes.
And so what I did is I asked everybody at the law firm if they wanted to have their chart done. Everybody did. So before and after work, I would do charts. And after 3 years there, they fired me because I was doing astrology.
They didn't like it.
And they didn't give me any money. And so I said, well, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
So I picked a date. I started, and that's how I got started. And it was real helpful because I grew, and I grew with other people.
Right.
And that's still my affirmation every morning. Send me the people that I can help, and we can grow together. So that's how I started.
Then you decided to go to graduate school to become a marriage.
No, I didn't. That was an accident too. Everything in my life is an accident.
Okay.
Because I say yes to everything.
Okay.
I had a very good friend that had been a student of mine when we were studying astrology, and he was a psychotherapist, and he was at the University of Houston Clear Lake. They had just chartered it, and he said, I want you to come, because I was probably about 12 years in, and I was on TV all the time and doing writing and everything, and so he had me come and talk about what I did with astrology to deal with people's needs.
Right.
And so after I went there, he said, you need to go to school here. So I signed up, and I went into school, and I loved it, and I thought, oh my God, I think this is so wonderful. And I thought, oh, this is for helping other people. No, it's for helping me. Because it was the best people in the world that were training me. So
yeah, that's one of the best schools for counseling in the country.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it was especially then because we had only 3 years on University of Houston Clear Lake, and they had so much money from the oil that they could get a guy that went all over the United States and picked the best
professors.
Yeah. So that's how I got educated. And it was in the 60s and the 70s and the early 80s, because there was we didn't have drugs, we just had treatment. And we were really taught well. And so that was really a benefit. And I remember when I started school, one of the professors that I really liked, I said, why aren't you talking about Carl Jung? He said, oh, nobody understands him. I said, that's not true. We have a Jung Society here in Houston. I'm
Right,
gonna
one of the best, yeah.
learn things in there. So that's what I did. And it was really easy because guess what? Carl Jung used astrology. He just hit it.
Yes, he did, yeah.
And one time when I went to New York, to the Jung Center there, all the people that had the books and all the stories were there. So the point is, all these things melted together so that you could know more about the inner person. And the inner person is what you need to know. Because the outer person, good Lord, that's not going to help you.
Is that how astrology and psychology balance one another, do you think?
I think so, but they're very different because there's so much unknown about how astrology works. Although I do believe I know because I read a book. I'm a book reader. And what they said is that when you go from water breathing to air breathing, the minute that you take your first breath, there's a 10-planet picture that tells you who you are, and it's in the limbic system of your brain where you can feel it.
Interesting.
And it takes about 7 years for all of that to come together, and then it takes 30 years for all of it to be in the right place, because there's several things that happen astrologically
Right.
in the period between 25 and 30, when you would have what's called a Saturn return, and you become the first version of yourself as an adult. So it's a journey. It's really a journey. But it was really important for me to have all those guinea pigs that I could ask them questions, they would ask me questions, and everybody had a good time.
Yeah.
Except me when I got fired.
But when I met you, you were in magazines, radio, television, speaking. You were teaching at the Jung Center in Houston, even in New Orleans. But it surprises me that Carl Jung's use of astrology. Did it surprise you?
Not really, because one of the things he taught us is that we have an inner. He was INTB, and that means that he was a man, of course, but he was a man who was an introvert, and he was a thinker. That's what the T is. And then he was somebody that always said yes to everything. That's why he was so interested. And what he was the protege of Freud, who just never changed.
Right.
So he was looking for everything, and that was one of the things that he found, and he loved it. And one of the things he did, when he had couples, he had a formula for seeing if they were going to stay married.
Oh.
Yeah. In astrology, there's there's the moon, and the moon is what you come in on. It's your entry to your life. And if somebody has the moon on the other person's first house, then they have compatibility, and so they usually work. So as an astrologer that helps couples try to get together and understand each other, if I ever see that, I know we're in the right zone.
Right. And a lot of people don't understand astrology. Can you translate it into simple understanding and how it works?
How it works is that there are 10 planets and they have vibration. And they're in different distances from our sun. Because there's inner planets like Mercury, Venus, Mars, and the sun. And then there's middle part planets, and then we have the outer planets, which have a very slow moving. And in 2025, we're having a phenomenon that we've never had before in anybody's life. We have 3 of these out of planets, and one of them is Pluto.
Which is
Pluto came first, but Pluto has not been in our solar system here for 250 years. So nobody has a resonance for Pluto.
Right. We don't know how to deal with it, huh?
Okay. And of course, what did we have 250 years ago? The American Revolution.
That's right.
This is a revolutionary year.
Time. Yeah, it feels like
And
it.
so then at the end of March, the planet Neptune, for the first time in 165 years, moved into the group. And that was the same year as we had Civil War.
Oh my.
And then we had the third one, the planet Uranus, which means surprise, it's nothing you wanted. And it has an 84-year cycle.
Wow.
And when we had Pearl Harbor, that's when Uranus went into Gemini.
Wow.
So we're having 3 wars that most people have never
Yeah.
felt. And if you're
In a
over
lifetime.
84, one of them you know.
Right.
So that's why it is so disruptive this year. It's very chaotic. And the other thing I would say about that is that when all these things happen at time, it's like we're not living in the world that we ever lived in.
Right.
And so we're feeling it, but we're not understanding it. So astrology has, in my opinion, the need to have 3 charts when you are trying to find out about yourself.
Okay.
When you're born, that's called a natal chart.
Okay.
And that's really helpful, especially if you're a mother or an
Right.
adopted
To see
child.
what kind of personality this
Yes,
kid's
and
gonna have.
actually see if you get along with them, or see if they get
Right.
along better with their father or their
Interesting.
their brothers and sisters. So it gives you more of an understanding of how people
Interrelate.
manage and interrelate.
Right.
And so that's one important part of it. And the other thing is, there's so many things in astrology that give you the understanding of what your temperament is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a temperament that's active, that's different from one that's being observant.
Okay.
And then there's a third temperament where the person is adaptive all the time, changing.
Okay.
So you have, it's called the legend. You can look at all these things, and then you can look at the pictures that the planets make in a circle, and you can say to yourself, I can know without having to dissect the person's moon and Mercury and everything. I can look at the patterns, and the patterns speak to me.
Right. Right.
So that's the first thing you do. The second thing you do is every year you need to have what's called a progressive chart, because these planets that you started with are going to move around, and sometimes they're going to be helpful to you, and sometimes they're going to not be so
right.
helpful to you.
Like
but
right
you
now.
need to know.
Right.
And then the third thing you have to do is look at the chart with transits. And as the planets are moving through each year, you have to see which of the planets are going to plug into your life.
Interesting.
So you have to have the ability to think about 3 different pictures at one time. It's really very geometric.
Right. And but I'm wondering, like, what types of questions and issues do people ask when they
Oh
have
my
like a
God.
consultation versus a reading?
I don't do readings. I do
Okay.
consultations.
Okay.
Anytime somebody says, oh, can I have a reading? And I said, no, because I don't need to practice.
Right.
I give everybody something to write on, and I say, give me
Take
2 or
notes.
3 issues that you are concerned
Dealing
about,
with,
and we'll
right.
start there and go for however long you want to go. So, they decide what they want to talk about.
Right. Because
Rather,
whatever's
I don't
bothering
need to
them.
tell them. I don't
Right.
need to practice doing that. So,
Right.
because one of the things that when I was first starting, and probably in the first decade, I didn't do that. And I found that everything I told people, they did. And I thought, oh my God, I'm hypnotizing them to do something that I didn't plan
Right.
and that they didn't really want to do. So that's why I changed it. And so people that have been astrologers as long as I have, they have to have an understanding of what it can and cannot do.
Okay.
But people want to know, when can I have a better job? What kind of job can I have? When should I get married? Who should I get married to? It's anything you can think of. Now the
I
funniest,
can have surgery, for example.
I do that all the time
Yeah,
for everybody.
Yeah.
And there was a client years ago, and he said, "Man, do you think you can use astrology to? I want to buy horses." I said,
Yeah.
"I have no idea, but I'll try it." So I
Right.
did that. And then I had another guy that wanted me to bet on the sports stuff. And he said, do you think you can do that? I said, I don't know. I'll have to think about it, see if I can figure it out. Well, we were doing really well, but I said, I think I need to stop before it kills me. So anything that you can think of, you can apply to. So
Okay.
I think it's just real important for you to know that astrology is unlimited.
Okay. Now, when should people get an update, for example, on their charts?
I think you should do it every year. I do
Okay.
my own,
Okay.
so I know what I'm getting into. And so that's really what you should do, is you should definitely say, and it's better right after your birthday. So I think it's important because that you're beginning again. That's your 365 days around the sun.
Mhm.
So why not do it then? Or if you have something going on or wanting to go on, you want to look at the astrological timetable to see what the best time to do.
Right, exactly. Like getting married or having
Well,
surgery.
getting married is a real interesting thing because it's a skill that some of us have. And getting people to get married on the days we tell them doesn't often happen.
Right.
So here's what I've suggested to people. I want you to go down to the courthouse and get married. Don't tell anybody. Just do it anytime you want. I have to do this with one of my granddaughters. And that way the energy, it's like the birth of your marriage, like the birth of yourself.
Right.
And so that's how you do that.
Now, your cat has been loving this interview, and I'm wondering, do you do astrology charts for animals?
No, I do not.
No.
Some people do, but I'm not that person.
Well,
But
thank you.
actually, I'm lying because when I got her, found her birthday so that I could know what she was.
See?
Yeah,
See what I mean?
She's Taurus, and she's a compulsive eater, and she, talks to me all the time. So, she's really.
And she
a
wants to
Taurus.
be around you because
Yeah,
she wants to be
yeah,
around.
and you too.
Thank you, Nan. I really appreciate it. And very interesting talk about astrology and the combination of astrology with psychotherapy. Thank you so
And
much.
sometimes people want to have that because you get 2 for 1. And if anybody wants to do that, they can go to my website, nanhalllinky.com, and read more about me.
And get a real
and they can
comprehensive
have
view.
Yes, because there's a lot of astrologers, but most of them haven't been doing this as long as I've been alive. So there you go.